3.10.99, the Buddha said, "Monks, if anyone should say, even as a man commits a deed, karma, so does he correspondingly experience its result. This being so, there is no living of the holy life. There is no opportunity manifested for the utter destruction of ill. But if one should say, even as a man commits a deed that is to be felt, so does he correspondingly experience its result. This being so, monks, there is living of the holy life. There is opportunity manifested for the utter ending of ill. Now, for instance, there may be some trifling evil deed of some person, which may take him to hell. Again, there may be a like trifling evil deed of some other person, which is to be experienced in this very life. Not much of it, nay, not a dot of it is seen hereafter." I just stop for a while to comment. Here the Buddha is saying that when we commit karma, when we do a deed, an action intentionally, it is we don't get the corresponding result always. It all depends on the person. It all depends on the person. In other words, suppose like you do an evil deed, like you kill a person, and for one person, perhaps by doing killing, in the next life or the next few lives, he may experience being killed either once or many times. But another person, he does the killing, but he does not experience being killed in the next life. So this is karma is not very straightforward. It depends very much on the person, the person doing the deed. This is an important principle that we have to understand, because the Buddha said sometimes a person does a small evil deed and it can bring him to hell. But another person does the same small evil deed, he may experience it in this very life. Maybe he feels remorse that he has done it, and then it troubles him a bit, and then next life it's all cleared. He doesn't have to pay anymore. Now to continue. Now monks, of what sort of person does a small offense take him to hell? Herein, monks, a certain person is uncultured in body, uncultured in moral conduct, uncultured in mind, uncultured in wisdom. He is insignificant, his life is restricted, he is miserable. Of such a person, monks, even a trifling evil deed done brings him to hell. Now monks, for what sort of being is a similar small offense to be experienced in this very life, and not a dot of it seen hereafter? In this case, some person is cultured in body, cultured in moral conduct, cultured in mind, and cultured in wisdom. He is not insignificant. He is a great being. He abides immeasurable. By such a being, monks, a similar small offense is to be experienced in this very life, and not much of it, nay, not even a dot of it is seen hereafter. So just stop for a while to say, you see, a person with not much blessings, not much merit, not an uncultured person, just doing a small evil deed brings him to hell. Whereas for another person who is a great being, he is cultured in body, cultured in moral conduct, cultured in mind, and cultured in wisdom. He pays for it in this very life, and hereafter he doesn't have to pay for it. And cultured in body maybe is that he does not do evil with his body. He does not steal, he does not kill, he does not commit adultery. And cultured in moral conduct, in all kinds of moral conduct. He is cultured. Cultured in mind, that means he has developed his mind by meditation, by concentration, etc. And cultured in wisdom, he has developed wisdom, understands the teachings, the holy teachings, etc. Now, to continue, the Buddha said, "Now monks, suppose a man throws a lump of salt into a little cup of water. What do you think, monks? Would that trifling amount of water in the cup become salty and undrinkable owing to that lump of salt?" And they replied, "It would, Lord." "Why so?" "That water in the cup, Lord, being but little, would become salty and undrinkable thereby." And the Buddha said, "Again, suppose a man throws a lump of salt into the river Ganges. What do you think, monks? Would that river Ganges become salty and undrinkable owing to that lump of salt?" "Surely not, Lord." "Why not?" "Great Lord, is that mass of water in the river Ganges. It would not become salty and undrinkable thereby." And the Buddha said, "Well, monks, just in the same way, the small offense of such and such a person here takes him to hell. Or yet again, a similar small offense of another person is to be experienced in this very life, and not much of it, nay, not a dot of it is to be seen hereafter." Let's stop here for a while. Here the Buddha is giving a very good simile. In the days of the Buddha, they did not have fine salt like we have nowadays. They had lumps of salt. And the Buddha said, you just take a lump of salt, you put it in a cup of water and you stir it, and you drink the water, is very salty. But you take the same size of salt, same lump of salt, you put in the river and you stir it and you drink the water, is not salty. So what's the difference here? The difference is that the river contains a lot of water, and the water dilutes the effect of the salt. So the water represents the good karma, salt represents evil karma. So when we do a lot of good karma, it dilutes the effect of the evil karma. That is why that's the only way we can dilute the effect of our evil past karma is to do a lot of good now. Then the Buddha said, "Now again in this connection, monks, suppose a certain man has to go to prison for a theft of $10 or $20, or he has to go to prison for a theft of $1,000. Or again, suppose another person does not have to go to prison, even though he steals the same amount. Now what sort is the former? He is a poor fellow, owning little of small means. Such a one has to go to prison for his debt. And for what sort of person does not have to go to prison for the same offense? In this case, monks, it is a rich man owning much of great means. Such a man does not have to go to prison." Here again, the Buddha is giving an example. Suppose now you imagine a beggar comes to your house. You're at the back of the house cooking or something, and he comes in and he sees maybe you have $10 on your table, or $20 or $1,000. Then he takes it and walks away. And then you happen to come out. You see the beggar walking away and your money is missing. Normally people would call the police and then have that man arrested and thrown into prison. But suppose some very VIP, a very important person, walks into your house in the same way, and then in the same way he pockets the $10 or $20 and he walks away. And when you come out, you see that person. On second thought, you think, I better not report to police. If I report to police, I might get into prison. So you see, two persons do the same deed. The result is different. So after that, the Buddha said, "So monks, if one should say, even as a man commits a deed, so does he correspondingly experience its result. That being so, there is no living the holy life. There is no opportunity afforded for the perfect ending of ill. But monks, if one should say, even as a man commits a deed that is to be felt, so does he correspondingly experience its result. That being so, there is living of the holy life. There is opportunity afforded for the utter ending of ill." And this is a very important principle here. The Buddha is saying that not all karma is to be experienced, So that's why we have the case of a perfect case of a man during the Buddha's time by the name of Angulimala. We know that he killed hundreds of people. He was a kind of bandit, but he was a lone ranger. He stayed in the forest, and anybody who passed through the forest, he would shoot his arrows and come with his knife and all that, and sword, and slaughter the people and steal their goods and cut their fingers, and he'd wear the garland of fingers around his neck. That's why he was known as Angulimala, the garland of fingers. So this man, Angulimala, he should have, if he had passed away, he would have gone to hell and suffered for a long time. But the Buddha went to convert him, and he followed the Buddha. The Buddha used psychic power. He tried to kill the Buddha, but the Buddha was walking very slowly. He came from behind and ran after the Buddha and tried to attack the Buddha from behind. But even though the Buddha was walking so slowly, he could not reach the Buddha, even though he was running at top speed. So after a while, he shouted to the Buddha, "Stop, monk, stop." And then the Buddha said, turned around and looked at him, and the Buddha said, "I have stopped. You have not stopped." Then he thought to himself, what does this monk mean? Then he thought, this monk can't be telling a lie, he must be speaking the truth. He has stopped, I am not stopped. Then he threw away his sword and all his weapons, and then he knelt down and asked the Buddha to explain. Then the Buddha told him, I have stopped killing, I have stopped harming all creatures. You have not stopped. That's why you still turn around in samsara. So then he realized, then he wanted to become a monk. So he followed the Buddha. And then after that, he practiced the holy life and he became an arahant, got out of samsara. But because of his karma, sometimes when he went on alms round, pindabat, people would throw rocks at him. He'd come back with a bleeding head. And then he'll tell the Buddha, weeping, and tell the Buddha, and the Buddha told him to bear it. And then that time I think the Buddha gave him another name and told him to bear it. Said that if you don't bear it, if you don't, the consequences of your karma are so heavy, you have to sort of strive to get out of it. So he strove so hard that he became an arahant. And when he became an arahant, he didn't have to pay at all for all that karma that he did. So the Buddha is saying that if we have to pay for all our karma, then there's no point in practicing the holy life. You can never get out of it. You never get out of samsara. So the one principle we have to remember is not all karma will ripen. Second one, the result of karma depends on the person. Different persons, the result of karma is different. And the third one is to dilute the effect of the past evil karma. We have to do more meritorious deeds, like keeping morality, dana, sila. The second one is dana, doing charity. Another one is bhavana, development of our mind. Another one is listening to the Dhamma, the teachings, and then discussing Dhamma, visiting monks, etc., etc. These are spelled out in the Mangala Sutta. The different ways of obtaining the highest merit. All these are the ways of attaining merit. 4.20.195. On a certain occasion, the Exalted One was staying among the Sakyans at Kapilavatu in Banyan Park. At that time, Vappa, the Sakyan, a disciple of the unclothed, went to visit Moggallana the Great, and on coming to him, saluted the Venerable Moggallana the Great and sat down at one side. As he said thus, the Venerable Moggallana the Great was saying this to Vappa the Sakyan, disciple of the unclothed. There may be someone here, Vappa, restrained in body, speech and mind, owing to the waning of ignorance and the arising of knowledge. Now Vappa, do you see any cause owing to which the asavas causing pain would flow in upon the man at some future time? Sir, I do see such a reason. There may be in this case a certain previously done evil deed, whose fruit has not yet ripened. Owing to that, the asavas causing pain might flow in upon that man at some future time. At this juncture, the conversation which the two were holding was broken off. Then the Exalted One, in the evening, rising from his solitary meditation, went towards the service hall, and on reaching it sat down on a seat made ready. Having taken his seat, the Exalted One said this to the Venerable Moggallana the Great. So the Buddha said, Pray Moggallana, on what subject are you talking as you sit here now, and what was the talk just interrupted? Lord, I was just saying to Vappa the Sakyan, disciple of the unclothed, there may be someone here, Vappa, restrained in body, speech and mind,
owing to the waning of ignorance and the rising of knowledge. Now Vapa, do you see any cause owing to which the asavas causing pain would flow in upon the man at some future time? At these words, Lord, Vapa was saying to me, Sir, I do see such a reason. There may be in this case a certain previously done evil deed whose fruit has not yet ripened. Owing to that, the asavas causing pain might flow in upon that man at some future time. This was the subject we were engaged upon. Then the talk was interrupted by the arrival of the Exalted One. Then said the Exalted One to Vapa the Sakyan, disciple of the unclothed, if you, Vapa, would allow what you deem allowable and reject what you deem should be rejected, and in case you should not understand the meaning of my words, if you would question me still further thus, how is this, sir? What is the meaning of that? We might have a talk here. I will indeed, Lord, allow the Exalted One what I deem allowable, and I will reject what I deem should be rejected. And in case I do not understand the Exalted One's words, I will question the Exalted One still further thus. What is this, Lord? What is the meaning of that? So be it. Let us have a talk here. I'll stop here for a while to just comment. This Moggallana asked this question. There may be someone here restrained in body, speech and mind, owing to the waning of ignorance and the arising of knowledge. Do you see any cause owing to which the asavas causing pain would flow in upon that man at some future time? This asavas, this word asavas, I would translate as uncontrolled mental outflows. The outflows, mental outflows that we have no control over, for example, emotions, worries, painful, distressing thoughts, etc. And these are the asavas. So here Mahamoggallana is saying, because of the waning of ignorance and the arising of knowledge, someone is restrained in the karmas. He does not create new karma, and on top of not creating new karma, he has attained knowledge. So is it possible for the asavas, painful asavas, to arise in the future? And this man, this disciple of the unclothed, said that it is possible. Now this, although it's not mentioned here, I presume that this naked ascetic is a disciple of the Jain Nigantas, because the Jains, they have a belief that they have to punish themselves, continuously punish and inflict pain on themselves to wear away the karma of the previous lives. Whereas the Buddha said that it is not necessary. What is necessary is to attain enlightenment, attain knowledge. So you see here, the Buddha is challenging this naked ascetic to a debate. That's why he said, if you, Vapa, would allow what you deem allowable and reject what you deem should be rejected, then etc., then we might have a talk here. And so he's stating the conditions for a debate, and this naked ascetic accepted his conditions. Then the Buddha said, now what do you think, Vapa, as to these asavas which come about as a result of bodily activities? In the case of one who abstains from bodily activities that cause vexation and distress, it follows that those asavas causing pain do not exist in him. He does no fresh deed. As to his former deed or kamma, he wears it out by constant contact with it, by a wearing out that is plain to see, not just for a time, one that asks for inspection, that leads onward, a wearing out that can be understood by the intelligent, each for himself. Now Vapa, do you see any reason why asavas causing pain should flow in upon him at some future time? No, Lord, that cannot be. Just stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha is saying, those karmas that result in painful asavas, if that person stops doing it, is it possible that those new painful asavas would arise? So this naked ascetic had to say no. Then the Buddha continued. Now again, Vappa, what think you as to those asavas that come about as the result of the activities of speech, as a result of activities of mind? In the case of one who abstains from activities of speech and mind that cause vexation and distress, it follows that those asavas causing pain do not exist in him. He does no fresh deed. As to his former deed, he wears it out by constant contact, by a wearing out that can be understood by the intelligent each for himself. Now Vappa, do you see any reason why asavas causing pain should flow in upon him at some future time? No, Lord, that cannot be. Again, what think you, Vappa, as to those asavas causing vexation and distress which result from ignorance, owing to the waning of ignorance and the arising of knowledge? It follows that those asavas of vexation and distress do not exist in him. He does no fresh deed. As to his former deed, he wears it out by constant contact with it, by a wearing out that is plain to see, not just for a time, one that asks for inspection, that leads onward, a wearing out that can be understood by the intelligent each for himself. Now Vappa, do you see any reason why asavas causing pain should flow in upon him at some future time? No, Lord, that cannot be. So then, Vappa, by the monk whose mind is perfectly released, 6 constant abiding states are attained. He, seeing an object with the eye, is neither elated nor depressed, but rests indifferent, mindful and comprehending, hearing a sound with the ear, smelling a scent with the nose, tasting a savour with the tongue, with body contacting tangibles, with mind cognizing mental states. He is neither elated nor depressed, but rests equanimous, mindful and aware. When he feels a feeling limited by body, he knows that he so feels. When he feels a feeling limited by life, he knows that he so feels. He knows when body breaks up after life is used up, all my experiences in this world will lose their lure and grow cold. Suppose, Vappa, that a shadow is cast by a stump. Then comes a man with axe and basket and cuts down that stump by the root. So doing, he digs all round it. Having done so, he pulls up the roots, even the rootlets and root fibers. He chops that stump into logs, and having done so, chops the log into chips. The chips he dries in wind and sun, then burns them with fire, then makes an ash heap. The ash heap he winnows in a strong wind, or lets the ash be carried away by a swiftly flowing river. Verily, Vappa, that shadow cast because of the stump is cut off at the root, made like a palm tree stump, made not to become again, of a nature not to arise again in future time. Just in the same way, Vappa, by a monk whose heart is thus released, 6 constant abiding places are won. He, seeing an object with the eye, etc., etc., with mind cognizing mental states, is neither elated nor depressed, but abides equanimous, mindful and aware. When he feels a feeling limited by body, limited by life, he knows that he so feels. He knows when body breaks up after life is used up, all my experiences in this world will lose their lure and grow cold. At these words, Vappa, the Sakyan, disciple of the unclothed, said this to the Exalted One. Lord, just like a man desirous of wealth who tends his property but gets no increase therefrom, but instead gets toil and trouble for his pains, even so, Lord, did I, desirous of profit, do service unto the unclothed. But I got no profit thereby, but instead got toil and trouble for my pains. I myself, Lord, from this day forth, whatever faith I had in those fools, the unclothed, I winnow it away in a strong wind, or I let it be carried away by a swiftly flowing river. It is wonderful, Lord, it is marvelous. May the Exalted One accept me as his follower from this time forth, so long as life shall last, as one who has gone to him for refuge. That's the end of the sutta. So you see here the Buddha is saying that abstention from unskillful karma through body, speech and mind will cause no new painful result, vipaka, to ripen. And then the painful vipaka, the painful result of karma due to old karma is worn out by constant contact with it, tolerating this karma as they arise. And then that person, by contemplation, by practicing the holy path, meditation, etc., becomes liberated. And one whose mind is liberated abides equanimous, mindful and aware, even when dying. That's why when the Buddha said when he's dying, he knows when body breaks up, after life is used up, all my experiences in this world will lose their lure and grow cold. You can imagine, like for example, when we wake up after a dream, suppose we had a nightmare, and then suddenly we wake up, then we realize it's only a dream. All that was so important in that nightmare is no more important. So in the same way, when we are dying, all the things in the world that was so important to us, that was so attractive, etc., as we are going to die, we find it's no more important. Absolutely not important anymore. That's why only karma is very important. If we do wrong karma, then we know we have to pay for it. If we do a lot of good karma, we know we are going to be very happy after this. That's why we have to be very, very careful with karma. When we practice the spiritual path, it's not only the meditation that's important. A lot of people think meditation is the most important thing. We forget about the basics. What is the basic? Basic is sila. Sila is keeping the precepts. It is also moral conduct. And in the suttas, the Buddha defines the moral conduct, sila, basically as having purity of the three karmas through the body, speech and mind. Body, speech and mind. So sometimes people only think of the 5 precepts, they forget about this basic teaching that our karmas of body, speech and mind, we have to be very, very careful. Don't talk bad about somebody who doesn't deserve to be talked bad about, and don't have evil intentions or evil thoughts against somebody who the Buddha says cultivates the holy path, etc. So you have to be very, very careful.